Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. It is the early part of June 2019, and I've got a couple people here with me live. It's really an exciting day to be officially kicking off the announcement for the Facilitator Training for my two latest workbook planners, PlanDoTrack and Coaching Business Builder. PlanDoTrack came out only about 5 months ago, but it has rapidly found its way in the hands of remote workers, leaders, and this is what it looks like. Many of you might have heard my announcements last summer of 2018 for Coaching Business Builder, and that workbook planner is really geared to coaches. So whether you are a coach, a virtual entrepreneur, a virtual team leader, or remote worker, I want to welcome you. And even if facilitator training is not the right thing for you, maybe this is a resource that can support you in your work. So what my call is about today is just to announce that in July, I'll be starting an 18-hour facilitator training program. It's going to run on July 9th, 10th, 23rd, 24th, 30th, 31st, because my vision is to really bring both PlanDoTrack and Coaching Business Builder into the hands of 20,000 coaches and 20,000 virtual entrepreneurs, remote workers, and virtual leaders by 2020. That's a really big task. Certainly, if you know me and my work, my writing, I'm all about group and team coaching, and I really believe in the collaborative ripple effect of a community. And so as I've been taking this work out by myself with my own clients, so coaches for Coaching Business Builder, and remote workers, virtual team leaders, and virtual entrepreneurs with PlanDoTrack, I've been hearing how valuable it is. And I really wanted to open it up now to people who might be interested in offering this under their own umbrella. So that's really what this call is all about. There is the training that launches in about a month's time. It's going to be all virtual. I'll take you a little bit into the back end of that training, what I'm going to be covering. I am in the process of submitting it for Icf CCEs. So if you're a coach, we won't know for probably about a month until the start of the program, but that hopefully will get some CCEs attached to it, which is always beneficial. What's more important, though, I think, is that it really is a road-tested program. So if you haven't seen either workbook or planner, I direct you over to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/effective group coach. And you'll see a variety of PlanDoTrack and or Coaching Business Builder calls that I've done in the last 6 to 12 months. It is part workbook, part planner. And so really as a facilitator, you'd be taking it forward either in a one-on-one context, maybe you're doing retreats, maybe you're doing one-on-one coaching, maybe you're doing team coaching with remote teams. In fact, PlanDoTrack is being embraced by remote teams as well. So I'm going to go into the facilitation training, and then I'm going to take us into the back end and talk a little bit about who the resource is for, because if it's not for you, then maybe there's someone you have in your network that it might be of interest to. The facilitation training is all about giving you road-tested tools. And both workbooks are about 125 pages. They're followed by 12 months of an undated planner, so people can start it at any time of the year. I'll go into more of those sections in just a minute. But the facilitation training is going to not just give you sort of the backbone of how to run this, but really to amp up your own facilitation skills as well. So in addition to the book, you'll also get a Facilitators Manual, and I'm calling it the navigation guide. So you literally can lead your own sessions. The only requirement as a facilitator is that you purchase a copy of the book for every person you're leading this with. So whether you do a weekend retreat or a one-year program, just get a copy for everyone. That is pretty much, it's really, really easy. Now, to really equip you, I want to give you additional exercises, checklists, things that I've been evolving in my own work. And the vision is that as the facilitation pool grows, that there really will be sort of a seeding of best practices across the group. I'll be hosting a Mighty Networks group to really connect facilitators in this work. And if it's anything like the other program licenses I started offering a decade ago, people really have enjoyed the fact that they can pick and choose and use things as is, as appropriate with their clients. So that's a little very high level overview. Again, the training dates, just to let you know, it's 2 3 weeks in July. They're a Tuesday, Wednesday morning, 9 to 12 noon Eastern. We're going to be meeting here on Zoom for some very interactive training. So the notion is that we introduce you to both resources. You can choose to be either a PlanDoTrack facilitator or a coaching business facilitator, or you can do both. Again, it depends, I think, really on what your focus is. We'll be leading these 6 3-hour sessions throughout the month of July. There'll be continuous ongoing learning for you as a facilitator, as a coach, and really leading conversations of any type, but also specific to the resources that you'll find. And more on that as I introduce you to some avatars of the program. So you might have some frequently asked questions. I'm going to do a second call on this next week for anyone who's interested. I will be uploading these, of course, to the Effective Group Coach YouTube channel, but there is a 5-page FAQ there for you, like what do I need to do? Who is it for? What will the training address? How much does it cost? And I want to make this as easy as possible. So again, if we look at sort of what's involved with the training, with the support for you, you can pay in one installment or you can pay across the year. Right now, early bird pricing is at $19.95. And that, I think, is a really good value if you're thinking of like how many times you could be rolling out a resource like this. So let's take a look actually at what it's all about. So really, as I've said, these are road-tested resources. Both books have emerged out of more than a decade of my work, either working directly with coaches or with virtual entrepreneurs and also virtual and remote team leaders. So there's a bit of a different lens here depending on which pathway you choose to go down. All of these resources came out of group coaching conversations, things that I have run month after month, year after year with different groups. Really wanted to start pulling those together a few years ago because I continue to hear how valuable it was, not only in the moment, but I've seen over time just how much traction people have gotten from many of these different resources. Now, my guess is many of you are probably coming at this from a coaching lens. The nice thing is this is a resource that clients can do on their own. It might be assigned as pre-work, post-work, after the coaching conversation, so that it's more of a sparker in terms of where people want to go. So I've talked a little bit about the workbook planners. It really would be an expanded business coaching toolkit for yourself, connecting in with other great professionals. And certainly we've already started getting registrations from a lot of people in the coaching world who are interested in incorporating this into virtual retreats, in-person retreats, one-on-one coaching, and even work with remote teams. So I think there's a lot of application here. I want to take you sort of like people are saying about both resources, and you can read about them over at Amazon.com. People are commenting that, the books are practical. They're actionable. I've heard of people like literally purchasing a copy on Amazon, spending a weekend working through the workbook page by page, or some of them even jump around from what their emails are saying, and they're coming away with some clarity. And I think for us in the business world today, helping people accelerate their focus, accelerate their clarity is really what we want to do. So the nice thing about this is you can opt to be a facilitator, but it may just become a support vehicle for your own clients. So both workbook planners can actually be done by people's own self. They're grounded in a couple of principles, and I won't go into those today, but if you're interested in reading more, definitely check out the blogs at coachingbusinessbuilder.com. That is really geared for the coaching world, people growing their own coaching business, or check out the blog posts at PlanDoTrack.com. And PlanDoTrack is really geared to the virtual entrepreneur, the virtual remote team leader, and his or her own team members. The principle that really grounds this work is that in today's disruptive environment, we want to undertake consistent action, preferably on a daily basis or a regular basis, to create momentum. We're bombarded by information all the time, and even to have some of you live here today is great because we are just running from one thing to another. So the notion of pulling these workbook planners together was to create an analog space. You might have the question, this is great, it's a book, but can I get it on Kindle? And in fact, you can't. So the simple answer is no. This is an analog workbook planner intended because we are retaining things differently than on paper than we do in the digital world. And we started seeing this research several years ago. As many of you might know, my 2017 book, Effective Virtual Conversations, really took a deep dive into what people are needing to have great virtual conversations. And so with PlanDoTrack, Coaching Business Builder, I made an intentional decision about a year ago that these would not be going into a digital format. The notion is shut down, shut off, spend 5 to 10 minutes doing some planning, because as we know, it's that time, it's those focused moments that really shave off time in the long term. And if any of you know a little bit about my background, for many years, so the first 15 years of my career, I managed mega projects. I worked for the United Nations, I worked for Canadian and British aid organizations, and there were always multiple moving parts. I was typically engaged in regional projects to redesign curriculum for education, not just one course, but secondary school curriculum. I was involved in disaster, post-disaster management rehabilitation, so rebuilding countries from the ground up. And as a former project manager, I still, 30 years later, hold to this adage that 5 minutes of planning saves us that 1 hour of unfocused effort. So you can really hear my passion. I want to show you sort of like a little bit about how you might incorporate this. Again, what I've been hearing, and it's very much aligned with what my vision was, that people are thinking, I'm going to grab some of these for my clients and bring them into VIP days or work through them in group coaching. So you can actually design your own curriculum around this. I've got some suggested pathways, but as with group coaching, these are only suggestions based on what your clients are asking for. You might also bring it out to a remote team or host a virtual retreat. The key is that you'll need to purchase a copy of the book for each of your clients. So my question to you is, who are you working with? Who are the folks that you're working with? And my guess is for some of you, you're probably working with some of these different folks. So I've given them a bit of a shape. If you read Effective Virtual Conversations, you would have met Jane. Jane is a virtual facilitator. You could see her there on the bottom right corner in her cartoon form from Effective Virtual Conversations. She's gotten a brush up for this body of work, and she's really keen on the resources in PlanDoTrack. In fact, her favorite part of the book is known as Section 4, which is all about the ecosystem. So part of this work is really about helping people become more aware of what their strengths are, what they're great at, what the opportunities are, and what's happening in the context around them. Section 4 of both books focuses in on a structured process to help people identify what they're good at. So for someone like Jane, who's a virtual facilitator, she's going to be able to use the tools incorporated in both books for different audiences. So if she's doing a workshop or a webinar for, say, virtual remote team members, she might pick on the virtual and remote team wheel, which is one of the resources in Section 1. There's also a section in here called the primer, and the primer goes into 14 essential tips for building business and teams today. And so for someone like Jane, who's working perhaps as a virtual facilitator, supporting teams, supporting members, she's also going to lean into the primer. Now, there's another type of person who might be interested in it, and that is Jo. Jo also showed up in Effective Virtual Conversations. She's a virtual leader. You can see what she looked like in Effective Virtual Conversations down on the right. She's aged a little bit. This is her in the PlanDoTrack Coaching Business Builder realm. Again, I'm just using these avatars to sort of give you a sense of like, who is this resource for? But someone like Jo, who is a virtual leader, being tasked to develop her team, is also going to be interested in probably the PlanDoTrack book. And one of the things that we go into, some of the exercises take us into the area of strategic issue mapping. Again, as a former virtual leader myself, I know how important it is to help bring down that vision to our team, to help them articulate what are really the strategic issues at play. And for those that are familiar with either resource, PlanDoTrack or Coaching Business Builder, you'll know that there's quite a bit of focus around strengths and, again, a coaching wheel of remote skills. In the back of both books, you have these 28 planning tools. And what you're going to see, which is really interesting, is that we're hearing that different people find different tools most most of their go-to. So for someone like Joe, she's going to lean into a tool that you'll find on all of the monthly worksheets called the Top 5. Again, keeping that big picture vision of how do we focus. Working with the top 5 is usually the way a lot of our virtual leaders are going today. They start the day, they have their top 5, maybe by 8 a.m. or even 6 a.m. in some parts of the world, they've got a list of 20 things. But knowing and keeping a line of sight on that top 5 is essential. So those are 2 options, Joe and Jane. You might also be working with people like Sujit, who's a project manager and an aspiring team leader. And people like Sujit, a project manager, are also finding, actually it's the PlanDoTrack resource, really, really valuable. Again, he or someone like him is going to lean into some of the planning tools like strategic issues mapping, or might be really interested in using some of these monthly reflection sheets. What you see here to the right is one of the many monthly planning tools that are incorporated. And again, as a facilitator, you'd be working with people to help them support their learning around this. You'll notice if you zoom in that there's quite a few sections here as we encourage people to do some monthly reflection, taking stock of their achievements, looking ahead to what worked and what hasn't, identifying even the projects that need to start, stop, and continue. I continue to hear from people like Sujit, project managers especially, that they are valuing the fact that they can go to one page in their virtual world and have sort of a meta overview. So at the end of each month, they can take some of these lessons and the metrics and carry them forward. And again, for someone like Sujit, having that notion of a top 5 is absolutely essential. If we think about projects today, and so many organizations are moving to a project-based structure, a lot of project managers are using Agile, they're using Kanban boards, but they're also having to do this in a remote space. So what do we do in support of the remote project manager? Something like this is ideal. It was really built and designed so that it's a desktop resource. Again, for many of us, we have so many things happening, and if you could scan around my office, I've got whiteboard after whiteboard, but this really is the one go-to to manage multiple projects at any time. A couple more people to meet. Again, someone like Sam, entrepreneurs. Maybe you're a coach or a facilitator working with small businesses. We've also been hearing that small business owners really enjoy, again, PlanDoTrack. And for someone like Sam, who's an entrepreneur, being able to track what he or she is doing, in this case, Sam is a girl, and in this case, Sam is really interested in using the monthly daily trackers. You can see a copy of them. I've been sharing quite a few videos over at PlanDoTrack.com about using the daily tracker. For those that are visual learners and really want some self-accountability on a regular basis, whether it's daily or even weekly or monthly, having some visuals on how people are moving the needle forward is critical, and especially for virtual entrepreneurs, people who are working on their own. It can get really isolating and really lonely. So that's Sam. Also hearing Eric, people like Eric, a remote worker, also being attracted to the PlanDoTrack tool. Some of their favorite tools, I think, are some of the prioritization tools. So there's quite a few prioritization tools in section 4. Exercises you can lead an individual, a group, or a team around, helping them look at all of the things that are on their docket and helping them prioritize so that they are feeling more productive and satisfied at the end of the day. For someone like Eric, he might be interested in a different tool. So again, there's 28 different planners, which is why it's an 18-hour facilitation training program, just to walk you through what's in there. And for him, he might be interested in the monthly one-page planner, which really, again, on a day-by-day basis, will help him identify not the projects on the go, but perhaps the different matrix teams, the actual activities he's undertaken, and or the meetings, conversations that he is involved with. Again, remote work is continuing to mushroom. The growth rate is astronomical, and a lot of remote workers just don't have a lot of support. So something like this where they can visually anchor what they're doing, who they're connecting with, who they're needing to collaborate with, or even being able to track their time becomes invaluable. It becomes a negotiation tool, a relationship building tool, etc. Now, some of you are coaches on the call today, and maybe you're working with other coaches to build their business. So again, we've seen Coaching Business Builder, which was the first of the two planners out. Coaching Business Builder has really been quite widely embraced in the coaching profession. There are a lot of coach training schools that are now recommending this as a resource for coaches, because again, coach training schools are great at helping coaches grow coaching skills, but not always have a focus on small business. And that's where many of us over the years have been working as a coach, not an advisor, but as a coach, to help business owners, coaches themselves, work through different areas, exercises, conversations to help them grow their businesses. So for someone like Mel, she is really an ideal client for the Coaching Business Builder. Maybe you're a mentor coach. This is a great sort of year-end or mid-year back to school, back to work September tool that's ideal for your clients. And for someone like Sam, she's probably going to lean into some of the small business resources in section 1, some of the ICF competencies. So, Coaching Business Builder is about coaches. It goes into ICF competencies, helping coaches identify themselves. Where are they? And a lot of coaches today are getting into the arena of content development. So one of the planning sections is all about content development. And she is interested in looking at things like how does she repurpose, republish, and even recycle some of the content she's developed. So a couple more people to meet. Mo, she's a creative solopreneur. Again, these people really are an avatar. They are really a voice of what we've been hearing, what I've been hearing for people who have purchased the books. For someone like Mo, maybe you're a coach or a trainer, a facilitator working with creative solopreneurs. So people who are on their own. Again, another key audience for this book. And what's interesting is people like Mo who are a solopreneur, some of them like the Coaching Business Builder, because they think that they're going to go into coaching, whereas others are gravitating towards PlanDoTrack because they know that they're never going to be a coach, but they do want support around growing their one-person show business. And as solopreneurs, we need to collaborate all the time. So there were actually several tools in that final planner section which are geared to help people think about content creation and partnering. So the final person we're going to meet tonight is Serge, and Serge is a virtual solopreneur. As I said, people like Serge, maybe not the creative as Mo, but more of a grow my service-based offerings. He's probably going to be interested in PlanDoTrack. And I think someone like Serge as well is going to be attracted to section 2, which is known as the primer. 14 key areas for leaders to be looking at. So lots of areas that we're hearing people are enjoying. There is, of course, the early bird rate on until June 21st. So summer solstice, you're going to have the current pricing at $19.95 US. That's a one-off. Or if that is not good for your cash flow, you can break down that payment into 12 monthly installments. The training is going to start on July 9th, running July 9th and 10th, 23rd, 24th, 30th, and 31st. And again, coaches, trainers, facilitators, consultants, really this is a tool for you. You can opt to be either a Coaching Business Builder facilitator or PlanDoTrack or both. So I'm sure there's lots of questions. As I said, I'm going to do a second follow-up call next Tuesday at the same time, I think, but just check the Facebook page. I'll go through some of the frequently asked questions to drop down into it. But today I really wanted to look a little bit inside the books. Again, maybe you're not interested in being a facilitator, but you'd be interested in recommending this on to others. So please do. Anyone can pick up copies at Amazon. And it's a really great, again, great year-end gift, but also a great back to work. So let's set up a call if you're interested. Reach out to me at info@potentialsrealized. We'd be happy to talk a little bit more about what the training is going to involve, what being a facilitator is going to involve. Really, it's handing it off to you. You're going to be responsible for leading any sort of sessions you want, billing it at whatever you want. All that I will be asking for is just, what are the numbers? Like, what are you doing? How many sessions are you offering a year? How many people are you impacting? I won't even be asking really any other questions than that, but I'm really interested in seeing how can we get this to ripple out. So let me ask if there are any questions. I know we've got a few of you live here, and it would be great to see if you want to unmute and or if you just want to chat with me. Let me know what your questions are. I'm going to look to see.
I have a question, Jennifer.
Yeah, go ahead. And you know what? I'm going to just shut off. I'm going to step away for 1 sec because there's an alarm going off in my
Okay.
office. So just 1 sec as I do that. So Jennifer, go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, a couple of questions. The first one is, you mentioned that you can do one or both. I guess I'm a little confused in terms of, is the training broken out into two different segments, or?
Yeah, great question. So because really, here's the difference between both. There's really not a lot of difference other than with the Coaching Business Builder, it's all about Icf Competencies versus PlanDoTrack. It's about virtual and remote skill sets. So that's the big distinction. In terms of like what content is different other than the focus, it's only about 15 to 20 pages within each book. So the structures are the same, the exercises are the same, obviously a different orientation. So if you are someone that's interested in both, what we'll be doing throughout the 6 half-day sessions is doing some breakouts, but reporting back so that there is a cross-pollination. Already I'm hearing from a lot of people, well, not a lot, but a significant proportion, that they are interested in perhaps doing both because they work with coaches and they also work with virtual entrepreneurs who don't see themselves as a coach. And so there definitely will be a cross-pollination and a feeding to both. So I'm really trying to keep this as easy as is without creating a lot of systematization, but there will be resources specific to PlanDoTrack and specific to Coaching Business Builder. What you can see, just to sort of give you how like it is really interwoven, if you go over to the YouTube channel, again, you'll see how most programs, most of the videos that I've been doing have been branded with both PlanDoTrack and Coaching Business Builder. So does that sort of answer your question in a very long-winded way, Jennifer, that yes, there will be cross-pollination, but there will also be in our training this summer a lot of, actually like visualizing roadmaps, learning. So when people go to breakouts, we'll be getting that documented so that there can be learning and cross-pollination.
Okay. So you'll be teaching both, no matter what, right? So everybody's going to be getting both. But what if
yeah, so I would say the backbone of both is identical. Where the distinctions lay are PlanDoTrack has a different set of skills that you'd be working with a person around. So obviously as a remote worker, you're not going to be looking and leaning into coaching skills like, well, you're still going to be using listening, but it's not the Icf competency base. It's a remote and virtual team leadership or teamwork base. So that's the real difference. I would say the backbones are the same though. So if we're talking productivity, let's say, how do you prioritize what's on your desk? It's pretty much the same tools for a coach, an entrepreneur, and a virtual remote team leader. So there's really not a lot of distinct other than two distinct audiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess just in terms of me, let's say I sign up and I'm going to be participating.
Yeah.
I'm going to be getting all the same information, right? And is it just the breakouts per se that?
Well, no. So there's two different guides, and there are going to be two different resource portals, because as this work continues to evolve, there's going to be I host Mighty Networks right now. And as I've been evolving a lot of this content over the years, some is very specific to coaches, some is very specific to remote workers.
Okay.
So we'll be feeding those up. So as much as it's the same backbone, and that's why I like to use that metaphor, it's the same backbone, but there are going to definitely be trunks and different areas that evolve over time. So there is a benefit to, saying, I want to be a facilitator in both. Or maybe you want to go through one and then add it on at a later date, right? It's just more, let's get this out in the world so that you can really add it on to your conversations.
Okay.
Anything else, Jennifer, that you're curious about or would like more information on?
Yes. Will you be recording the sessions for, if I have to miss one?
Yeah. So again, as with most of my training that's virtual, yes, it's recorded. And if it's typically what I say, if it's only one of the X number of sessions, that's really doable. But if you're going to be missing, 25 or 50%, I always encourage people to think twice. It's an investment of your time and money. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of people really do know that, yes, this date I'm going to be away or I'm going to be on holiday. So we'd work together to actually, just prep you so that your questions related to some of the content does get answered during a day that you're missing. The other piece that I haven't talked much about, part of learning and really immersing yourself into content is about an ongoing conversation. So there are going to be some peer partner work where you'll be paired with one or two other professionals over the course of not only just the sort of month of our training, but on an ongoing basis. So what I'm envisioning is that I'm going to be keeping in very close connection to this facilitator community. There are going to be special resources just for the facilitator community that don't exist in my other communities. And I'll be hosting quarterly calls and other vehicles to really make sure that your questions are getting answered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. And Georgianne, I know you've been with us as well. Do you have any questions?
I just have one question. There's a lot to think about. What is the YouTube channel again, Jennifer?
Yep. So it's still under my usual handle. It's under Effective Group Coach. So it's only Effective Group Coach. You'll notice a Facebook page is Effective Group Coaching, but it's Effective Group Coach on YouTube. Or you can just Google me, Jennifer Britton, although there are many Jennifer Brittons in the world. Or you could also Google PlanDoTrack. There's a whole PlanDoTrack playlist. Okay. So again, if you're sort of thinking, I wonder, what this is all about. I heard a little bit about it. Definitely check out the PlanDoTrack calls that I've run. I do 1 or 2 a month. You're more than welcome to join me. They typically happen on a Monday. I have also, you'll see some are a joint call because they do impact both the virtual entrepreneur, a coach, and a virtual remote team leader. There are others that are more specific to one or the other. So again, it's a pretty fluid space, but I think there's a lot of landscape, which is why I'm so compelled to get this out to people like you to really lead this work. And I do hope that you'll look at it for this summer. I never want to create artificial urgency. Given the world of how planning really works, and I've been tracking this now for several years, there's sort of a window in the fall where you start getting a lot of requests because it's like back to work, and for many back to work equals back to school and back to a routine. There's also another big push on personal and productivity issues, usually towards year end. So I will be doing a October, probably either a late October, early November session as well for people who are interested in becoming a facilitator at that point. But it's not going to be something I open up and have running all year. There'll be a July group this year and sort of a late October, early November. But I know how busy coaches get at that time of year. So if you're interested now, let's set up a call. Definitely reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have. And I want to thank you for being a voice, because I'm sure as this video goes out into the world, many others will have the same questions you've asked. So before we wrap up, anything else that I can answer today?
None for me. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both. Hope to see you. And if not in the facilitator program, definitely drop into the PlanDoTrack and Coaching Business Builder calls. Again, the websites are of the same name. So you'll actually find a whole ecosystem of website, blog posts, PlanDoTrack, and Coaching Business Builder as well. All right, everyone. Take care. Drop me an email, info@potentialsrealized.com if you have any questions. Hope you'll join us starting in July.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.